My name is Deirdre. I'm a PhD candidate at Trinity College Dublin, researching remedies for building defects. But some of you will know me from my work with Reading Charlton solicitors, and some of you will know me from my work with King's College London and my long association with the Centre of Construction Law. This morning we have no fire drills planned, so if you hear the fire alarm, the emergency exits are to your right. The format for the day is set out in your packs. We are going to go through until about lunchtime, starting with a few introductory words from John O'Connor of the Housing Agency. Then we're going to proceed to our keynote speaker, and then we will have our first panel of the day. But what I would like to do first, on behalf of the organisers, is to thank the Housing Agency for the support and interest they've had for this project since we originally began to plan it a few months back. And this conference has been jointly organised between the School of Law, which is me, Orla Hegarty of the School of Architecture, who many of you know, and Malachy Matthews from the School of Architecture in the Dublin Institute of Technology. And you will have a very interesting panel later in the morning on collaboration, technology and innovation, which will be chaired by Malachy. So on behalf of the organisers, I would like to thank the Housing Agency for their support for this event, and we would like to thank the Department of Arts, Heritage, Regional, Rural and Gaeltacht Affairs, who also supported the event from the outset when we were planning it. So what I'd like to do first is to just hand over to John O'Connor, the Chief Executive of the Housing and Sustainable Communities Agency, to make a few welcome remarks.
Thank you very much, Deirdre. Good morning, everyone, and thank you all for coming here this morning in terms of a wet Saturday morning, giving of your Saturday to discuss this very important topic. And I'd particularly like to thank those who have come from abroad, from England and that, to be here with us today and share their information. In terms of thank yous, Deirdre and Orla in particular put a lot of work into this, as has Michelle Murray from the School of Architecture here in UCD, and I think they have to be thanked in terms of putting this together. And they've worked with Malachy Matthews of DIT in collaborating on putting this event together. I'd also thank my colleague Isolde Dillon in relation to her work in the coordination of it. So particularly again for the speakers who come from Ireland and abroad, to some feedback on this for some reason on the speaker. For coming, and it's going to be a very interesting day here today. In terms of collaborating, working together, and how we get that collaboration, getting contractor involvement from an early stage in relation to construction projects, and then making the best use of the technology that we now have is so critical. Coming to the area of housing, as most of you will know, a number of months ago, in July, the Minister for Housing, Simon Coveney, launched a rebuilding plan, Rebuilding Ireland, an action plan in relation to housing. And in terms of delivering both the public and the private housing that is needed, and utilising better actually the existing housing stock and the existing buildings that we have, it needs everyone to work together and to cooperate to achieve that. And it's only by getting trust and cooperation across the industry, between clients, between contractors, between consultants. And the one thing I would give to you today, anybody involved, often there is a huge focus on the client, contractor, and the consultant. The area that gets left out, and probably in housing, surprisingly, more than most other areas, is the area of how a building is going to be maintained, short term and long term. So in asking how is the building going to be managed, so that's clear in relation to apartment blocks in terms of the management and maintenance. And I'd have to say, in relation to the apartment buildings in Ireland, the majority of them are not, the management maintenance is, not taken into account in the design and construction of the majority of them, and it's something we need to do. So just one thing I would like to mention, we're talking about collaboration, is how is the building going to be managed. Also the same with housing. in relation to an awful lot of social housing projects people put in, district heating systems or shared heating systems, and there is no point putting in such a system unless you know how it is going to be managed and how even very simple things about how is that service going to be charged out, how is it going to be paid for. So that's just one thing I would just like to specifically mention. So I'd nearly start off, if you're designing a building, is actually start off how is it going to be managed and maintained and what resources are going to be there, and design the building relative to those resources. In terms of why we're here today, in terms of talking about partnering and collaboration, it is so critical in terms of getting a proper quality building, controlling the cost on the building and delivering it within a timely fashion. And it does make a huge difference. I know in my own career, and I'm just reflecting it back on it the last number of days before this morning, is I'd say in every situation where there was proper collaboration at the start, you got a good result. And particularly if you did have contractor involvement at the start, and I've worked in terms of the projects I've worked on, one lot of work in Dublin Port in terms of quays and other structures in Dublin Port, and in those at that stage I was working with a contractor called Colin Construction, and there was huge engagement between the contractor who did it was design and build situation and Dublin Port and Docks board. And what happened is, you tender for a project, you got a project, but then there was complete partnering and collaboration throughout the project. The price was agreed at the start. Probably that's been one thing, and just thinking back, a price is agreed for the project, and then the project is, everybody works together just to deliver that project to their best ability. So working from that to building projects to IT, infrastructure projects, two of the most difficult projects I worked on in terms from a risk point of view. One was restructuring an IT infrastructure, for a big organisation in Dublin City Council, and changing their whole IT infrastructure. And again, because everybody got involved and talked together before, including those who were carrying out the work, it delivered very smoothly. Another very tricky project was a district heating scheme connected to a CHP, and again, you say there's a high risk project in terms of is it going to work and is it going to deliver at the end of the day. But again, because there was engagement right at the start, it made such a difference. And then up to today, I'd say where you get a situation where you can get that level of collaboration, it makes such a difference. One thing as an aside that the housing agency has done, is not our main part of our business. We do pyrite remediation. This is a latent defect that a lot of housing has in North Dublin and some surrounding counties, where the stone underneath the ground floor starts expanding and damages the house. Now, we went through a process of setting up a framework of contractors, consultants to do that work. But again, there's huge collaboration in relation to between the consultants and the contractors. And I say the contractors working on this now, absolutely top class in terms of very smooth running of the projects. I'd say the majority of the contractors actually just put in the price and they just do it for the price. There is it is just a case of working together and being very focused on in this case, the homeowners in getting their work done right. So anyway, my experience, and then also I'd say just one other project was, which is a public-private partnership, which is Fatima Mansions, Herberton. Again, there was a competitive process in terms of selecting who was going to carry out the project, but once the consultants and the contractor and developer was on board, then by huge level of collaboration you can get the right results. So I strongly recommend even working within the procurement systems that we have, a lot can be done to get good results. If everybody works together, and if the objective is to provide quality building, because actually apart from everything else, and you'll have heard it many times before, the most important thing at the end of the day is whether the product you end up with is a quality product and that meets the purpose and fits, whether it's a homeowner or a commercial building for a client. If it meets the quality requirements, and you'll only get that, you'll only get good quality if there is working together and collaboration. So I'm going to hand you back to Deirdre and enjoy today.
Thank you very much, John, for that. I realised, having gone through my housekeeping points at the beginning, that I had entirely neglected to thank all of the speakers who have given up so much of their time in preparing the presentations that you're going to see and hear today, and obviously a number of whom have travelled quite long distances to be here with us. So we're really, really thankful to the speakers, and we're really thankful to all of you for giving up your Saturday to be here and to hear about this. So what I wanted to do very briefly before handing over to our keynote speaker is just to give you a little bit of context about what we're talking about and some of the concepts that we'll be talking about. There are obviously people in the room who have been looking at this area for many years in different contexts. My interest in collaborative construction particularly came out of a series of lectures I gave in King's College London to the students on the MSc course about project management, and it gave me a very different perspective on how we procure and how the manner in which we procure and the manner and the contracts that we use influence the behaviour of the people on the project and influence the outcome. And the outcome of projects is dictated very significantly by how people behave, and sometimes by the types of contracts and structures that we use to facilitate that collaboration. And in a way, what I like about the ideas of partnering and collaboration that we'll be looking at is that they're very, very simple in a way. There's no great science to suggesting that people should spend more time together in the planning stage looking at what they want to achieve. There's no great science really to saying that maybe clients might understand their requirements a little better if they had more exposure at an earlier stage to the people who may be delivering those requirements. So that is the broader context. That's certainly part of what got me interested in this as an area of research. I just wanted to look briefly at some of the concepts we'll be talking about, so that when we talk about collaboration, you have an idea of what I and the other speakers mean by that. So collaboration, it's a broad church. The action of working with someone to produce something, and of course there are many examples of very successful collaborations throughout history. Procurement then is the action of obtaining or procuring something, usually works or services or goods. Often when people use the term procurement in the types of contexts in which we all work, they're talking about public procurement and the types of rules that govern public procurement, particularly here in the EU. But of course procurement is what we all do in our lives and in our businesses. And of course you could say, isn't all construction procurement necessarily collaborative? This is the pyramids, and this is the great monument at Newgrange, which we know must have involved an enormous amount of collaboration, because some of the stones that are in that monument in Newgrange came from as far south as County Wicklow. And they're not quite sure yet how it was built, but it undoubtedly was a collaborative exercise. But when we talk about collaborative construction procurement, we are in one sense distinguishing it from what I would call the traditional model, where there can be a disconnection in time between the client deciding what the client wants, the client engaging architect or engineer design team to design that design being put out to the market for tendering, and the market responding to say, yes, we can provide that, and here's the price at which we'll provide that. And then that party who can be the main contractor engaging the supply chain. And you can see here how the disconnect in time is represented, and some of the consequences that can come from that. Another dynamic, which is of enormous importance to partnering and collaboration, is the reflection on the construction industry that's been carried out in various countries, but I mention in particular in the United Kingdom, which has led to the modern concept of partnering in construction. And by far, of all of the reports that have been commissioned by the UK government over the years, and there have been quite a number, the most influential was the Latham report of 1994. And Sir Michael Latham, in the course of preparing that report, looked at what was happening in the construction industry, and he noted in particular that there was enormous pressure on the supply chain, enormous pressure on subcontractors who weren't being paid. So he recommended the adjudication of disputes, which is a speedy dispute resolution mechanism. It was introduced in England in legislation a few years after the Latham report, and has now been introduced in Ireland as of 2013. But the more relevant for our purposes was the fact that the report strongly condemned the adversarial culture in construction contracts, and the culture whereby claims and claims management began to dominate project delivery instead of parties working together in order to achieve the project outcomes. And so the report promoted partnering over the adversarial model. Some of the principles of partnering are integrated and co-located teams, early identification of risks, active risk management, early informed dispute resolution, and crucially, trust and cooperation. So really picking up on some of the points that John mentioned. One example, one of my favourite examples of collaborative construction is the construction of Heathrow Terminal 5, and a number of you have probably heard me speaking about this before, in which the client decided to take an entirely different approach to risk and contracting. They retained a lot of the risk that in a traditional model you might expect would be passed to the contractor or the supply chain. They organised the work to be done around integrated teams, each with responsibility for a works package. They were highly innovative contracts, and the commercial director of T5 in an interview afterwards said that the contracts that they used in the approach had an enormous impact on the outcome. They said they delivered the project on time, they said they delivered it within budget, and they prioritised safety as a core value as part of that project. So he said if the performance had been in line with other major projects that they had looked at, it would have gone over time, it would have been 1 to 2 years late, it would have been 40% of the original cost, and we would have killed 6 people. So the collaborative type model is one that can take different types of forms, and we will hear in a few minutes from David Mosey about the form that it takes in the PPC contracts and the FAC Alliance contract. But the collaborative model has some version of integration of these teams at a much earlier stage in the process, where the client can engage, for example, in the PPC model, can engage the contractor and the design team and some of the key specialist subcontractors at the outset of the project to inform the design, to inform the approach to the selection of the supply chain, and to build up the price, which can have a significant effect on the outcome. So some of the features are early contractor involvement. As I say, the contract pricing built up by the team. The contractor can be given incentives and to propose, for example, value engineering solutions, which is where a contractor can say to the client, well, you're asking me for this, but in fact, are you aware that we could do it this way? And it's different to what you're asking for or what you think you want, but it could save you time and it might be a better solution. And there's an innovative approach to dispute resolution. The benefits of collaborative construction are not, there's certainly case studies, and we will hear from some of them today, to say that there can be significant savings in time and cost. One of the real opportunities for collaborative construction is that it supports BIM. And I don't have to tell you what BIM is about, some of you know already, and the rest of you will all hear during the Technology and Innovation panel what it is about. But it can make a significant impact to the outcome of the project, and a significantly different experience for the people involved in the project. But it does require a cultural shift, and it requires a commitment to collaboration at an early enough stage of the project, in my view, to be meaningful. Obviously, trying to transpose something like this into the Irish context, well, first of all, I should say it wouldn't be a transposition, because there are examples in Ireland of partnering and collaboration in action, and we'll hear about some of them later on in the day. Obviously, you could say we're in the midst of a crisis. We don't really have time to be trying to change the model that we use. We just need, for example, we need more housing, we need it very, very quickly. And we need to help our construction industry to recover. And I agree with all that, but we need to help the construction industry to evolve and to innovate and to develop and to take advantage of the opportunities that are being presented by some of the technologies we'll be talking about. So that really is I put that up. I thought that was a fascinating slide because it's from a healthcare collaborative project in Canada that suggests that when you start to look at something like how we collaborate and how we procure contracts, you then have to go back in time and say, well, how do we all learn? And are our models for how we learn also in need of an overhaul? Is it still relevant to talk about BIM when architects and engineers and lawyers and quantity surveyors are all educated separately? So those are my kind of opening thoughts.